Well, some pretty interesting new Marvel rumor reports have dropped in relation to Marvel television shows. Next year is stacked with at least 10 Marvel Studios projects. So what does the future look like after that, and who will be coming our way? Some people are getting pushed to the front of the line, some to the back, and all getting shuffled around to set up this multiverse finale. So let's take a couple minutes to talk about the report, what's going on with Marvel Studios and some of these upcoming projects, and what big names are set to join the MCU, some later than sooner. Well, as we were saying, 2025 for Marvel Studios is absolutely jam-packed. Marvel's going to release at least 10 projects, and that's across Marvel Studios films, television, and animation. Now, despite all of these projects coming our way, and the Multiverse Saga conclusion right on the horizon, there are still many movies and television shows that are very unlikely to be released before the Multiverse Saga wraps up. Now, we do expect Vision to hit Disney Plus in 2026, but that's because we know it's going into production next year. And we do imagine at least one more show will probably chime in before this saga wraps up. Now, one other project that's not mentioned in this report, but does appear to be coming our way, just we're not sure when, is Blade. We heard Blade was canceled. Now we've heard Blade is still in production, and it's just figuring out where it fits into the larger schedule, but it also feels like it's one of those projects that could come our way in 2026 or 2027. Now, this is where Scooper Daniel Richtman comes in, and like we always like to say, he's not Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige, so we're going to take it with a grain of salt, but Richtman's been on a tear lately, hitting home run after home run, and honestly, he doesn't hide behind anonymity, and stands by and will retract his stories, and like I said, with the current track record, it's hard to ignore. Now, Richtman had updates for multiple projects, and some of them kind of caught me off guard. One thing he did confirm is that as of right now, Marvel is bringing 2 additional projects to bear, and these are both for Disney+. The first one is a Season 2 of Hawkeye. Season 1 of Hawkeye is one of my favorite shows from Phase 4, and Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop is a welcome addition to the MCU. It's also very clear Marvel is setting up those young Avengers, and although Jeremy Renner was a huge part of Season 1, I think he'll probably have a pared down part in Season 2, especially after some of those injuries he's still in recovery from. Now, the second series he's saying will come to us before Secret Wars spins right out of last week's Agatha finale, and that is Wiccan. Now, honestly, I'm not that surprised that Wiccan is getting a series, and his introduction in Agatha all along was particularly great. The costume is spot on, and the character was well received, and obviously, Wiccan and Agatha are now on a quest for Tommy, and then that show basically is set up and just needs to be written and produced because all the storylines are already in place. Now, how Wiccan connects with Vision, that's a pretty big question, and obviously both shows are related to each other, and I would not be surprised if Joe Locke's Billy Maximoff finds his way into that show also. Now, Richtman had updates on 2 other projects that he believes will come our way in 2027. Now, that would be Nova and the Blonde Phantom. So let's kick it off with Nova. Now, as far as Nova goes, this particular news does line up with what we heard earlier this year. Kevin Feige basically confirmed they are working on a Nova project, and it could be 3 or 4 years out. It's 2024. So 2027 is obviously 3 years out, and that character's introduction would be something brand new to drop after Secret Wars. Now, earlier this year, Brad Wonderbaum, who's head of Marvel Studios streaming, animation, and television, had a lot to say about Nova. And in an interesting quote, he actually said, "We love Nova. We are in really early development on Nova. We have a new system behind the scenes at Marvel Studios. We're more like a traditional studio now. We're developing more than we will actually produce. There are plans to develop Nova. I love Nova. I love Rich Rider too. I hope it gets to the screen. The world's always chaos. There's always things. You gotta conjure these things to make them happen, but I would love to see Nova show up one day." Now, honestly, it's pretty clear to me Wonderbaum is doing everything he could do to bring Nova to life, and this character really is key to a cosmic Marvel expansion, so I would understand why they're not rushing it. Now, he does confirm a couple of things here. Number one, we're talking about the original Nova character, not the more recent mantle holder Sam Alexander. I also noticed in his quote, he changed his name to Rich Rider from Richard Rider. Now, obviously, the word Dick is short for Richard, and it's always been the butt of a ton of jokes, suggesting to me there's already been meetings at Marvel Studios on how to kind of change the public perception on the character, and probably the first thing you need to do is to kind of get a little bit of a different name. Obviously, it's an immature joke, but it is one that has stood the test of time, and obviously with Kevin Feige and most of his folks being comic fans, they know this to be true. Now, the other big project that he was talking about is the Blonde Phantom. And this is the project that many people believe Scarlett Johansson is currently developing, with both Taylor Swift and Sydney Sweeney rumored, and I emphasize the word rumored, to be in the running for the role. Now, the Blonde Phantom is a really interesting choice and not a very well-known Marvel character. She actually made her first appearance way back in 1946 and was created by Stan Lee and Sid Shores. And the story follows Louise Grant Mason. Now, in the comics, Louise is a secretary at the Mark Mason Detective Agency and is secretly in love with her boss. When he is on a case, she takes off her glasses, lets her hair down, and becomes the glorious masked heroine, the Blonde Phantom. Now, this particular character is pretty classic of the pulp era of comics in the 1940s, and to me, if I'm guessing, more than likely this will be a period piece probably set in that era. This could open the door for all kinds of interesting cameos, and does make me wonder if some actors, like Dominic Cooper, who played that era's Howard Stark, could somehow make a return for that show. Now, honestly, the biggest surprise on this list would be Wiccan, but we have heard there is a Scarlet Witch movie in development, and that show could be trailing us right into her return. We've also heard rumors she could be part of Secret Wars, serving as Doom's love interest, but I'm not so sure of that yet, and I think from a perceptive standpoint, when Marvel brings back Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, they definitely want her to be a hero, and tying her with Doctor Doom might not do that. Now again, these are all rumors coming from Daniel RPK. We want to take them with a grain of salt, but most of these sound pretty great to me and already have been substantiated on many other levels. Obviously lots happening with Marvel, but I am curious on what you guys think of some of these stories. Out of these 4 projects, which one are you most enthusiastic for? And how do you feel about Scarlett Johansson developing the Blonde Phantom and having it as a period piece set in the 1940s? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Now, before you take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell for all the updates, and make sure you get every notification because we do daily Marvel and DC content and we don't want you to miss any news.